Welcome back to Movies Recapped. Today I will show you a war thriller film from 2008, called The Hurt Locker. Warning: spoilers ahead. Watch out and enjoy. With shaky camera work, the film opens with a scene of confusion and fear on a Baghdad street in 2004. People run away as a group of soldiers gathers around, and a remote bomb destroyer advances towards a mysterious bundle. American soldiers controlling the robot soon discover the type of explosive they are dealing with and say that it's going to cause a big problem. Their best bet is to create a controlled explosion so they can contain the damage more easily. As they are sending their own explosive device out to destroy the original one, the robots will break off. This forces one of the men, Staff Sergeant Matthew Thompson, to take the explosive device out by hand. This is, of course, a very dangerous task. The protective suit he puts on only makes the desert heat hotter. He places their explosives on the IED and begins his retreat. As he does though, one of his team members spot a civilian holding a phone, which is how many IEDs are detonated. The team rushes towards him to get him to put it down, but it is too late. He explodes the device and Thompson is killed. Sergeant First Class William James soon arrives to fill Thompson's shoes as the team leader of the Explosive Ordnance Disposal Unit. One of the team members, Sergeant J.T. Sanborn, goes to introduce himself. It is immediately clear that the two have very different personalities and outlooks on life. James wants to take down the wooden window coverings because he likes to be able to see the sun, but Sanborn says that those are there for protection against mortars. James tells him that it doesn't matter, that window covering won't do much against a mortar that falls through the roof. It's not long before James, Sanborn, and the third member of their team, Specialist Owen Eldridge, have to go out on another mission. They are sent to what appears to be an empty street, and the team they are supposed to be meeting is nowhere to be found. They do see their abandoned Humvee, and eventually James sees someone waving an American flag from a building. He finds the unit and gathers their information, which he shares with his team. Rather than using the robot to get a view of the possible IED, he says to get the protective suit and he'll go have a look. The other team members are nervous about this, given that their previous commander just died in a similar manner. He approaches the possible threat and sets off a smoke bomb, which blocks everyone's vision. Sanborn and Eldridge are on edge and demanding that James give them some idea of where he is. While this is going on, a car runs through the blockade set up by the Americans and stops just short of James. He pulls a gun on the driver and tells him to back up and get out of the car. After a tense standoff where James shoots several warning shots, the taxi finally backs up and the driver is roughly apprehended by the troops standing by. The mission, though, still is not over. James has to find the rubbish pile with wires. He finds it with no more issues and disables it by hand. From there, though, he finds another wire that leads to at least 6 more devices that need to be disabled. Once he finishes those and gets back to his team, he says it's not a bad way to start working together. Sanborn obviously disagrees, and thinks that James's behavior is reckless. Their next mission leads to James being equally as reckless, and Sanborn and Eldridge equally as stressed out by his behavior. From removing his protective suit, to removing his communication headset, James breaks many of the rules that EIDs are instructed to follow. Despite this, James does manage to defuse the IED. While he is without his headset, though, he does miss some key information about a possible threat to their safety from the onlookers. Back near their camp, James is regularly approached by the same Iraqi youth named Beckham, who tries to sell DVDs to the soldiers. James plays soccer with the kid and grows fond of him. His cavalier, yet effective, way of working earns him praise from his superior, despite causing constant tension among his team. This tension builds to a point where Sanborn openly talks about killing him by accidentally triggering some explosives that they are assigned to destroy. This makes Eldridge very uncomfortable, so Sanborn doesn't detonate them while James is near the blast site. This does not stop tension between the men and their leader, and it continues to grow. On their way back to Camp Victory, the team runs into a group of 5 armed men in standard Iraqi garb. After disarming the men, the Americans discover that the group are private military contractors and British mercenaries and that they are stranded with a flat tire and no wrench to change it out. The British group has captured 2 of the most wanted prisoners. While attempting to change the tire, the group comes under fire and the prisoners try to escape in the chaos that follows. The leader of the mercenaries shoots and kills the fleeing prisoners since they are worth money dead or alive. The enemy snipers take out 3 of the mercenaries, including their leader. Sanborn and James take their gun to take out 3 of the attackers. While waiting for the attackers to come out of hiding, James has Eldridge get him a juice. Instead of taking the last one for himself, he gives it to Sanborn, who is the one doing the shooting. Eldridge is not handling the stress of the situation well, and James is able to talk him through it, and he is able to dispatch a 4th enemy. Even though the team still may not like their leader, They have a newfound respect for him after the situation they went through. They celebrate their victory, and the group bonds over the events of the day. They discover James's box of trophies, components from many of the bombs that almost killed him. While drinking and wrestling, James takes the fight with Sanborn too far. Sanborn pulls a knife on him, and James leans into it, daring him to use it. Later, during a raid on a warehouse, they find American weapons and explosives, and James finds what they call a body bomb. This is where a bomb is surgically implanted into a human. James identifies the body as being Beckham, the young Iraqi boy he befriended. This leaves him emotional and distracted during the evacuation. Instead of destroying the building like they originally planned, James removes the bomb from Beckham and brings his body out. As they are leaving the site, a secondary bomb goes off. It ends up killing Lieutenant Colonel John Cambridge, the camp's psychiatrist and Eldridge's friend, who was along for the ride. Eldridge blames himself for the loss of his friend, since it was at his request that Cambridge do a ride along so he could get a reminder of what field work is really like. The next morning, James approaches the adult DVD seller about Beckham, but he doesn't speak good enough English to understand. That evening, he makes the DVD seller take him with him to Beckham's house to try to get answers. Instead of taking him to the correct place, the man drops him off at a professor's house and leaves him there. Realizing that he has been deceived, James quickly leaves, but not before scaring the professor's wife. That same night, James and his team are called to a bomb site where an oil tanker was detonated. They are there to determine whether or not this was the actions of a suicide bomb, and if so, how they did it. The scene is pure chaos and grief. Rather than just investigate the detonation point, James decides to look for the people responsible, thinking that they are probably still nearby. Sanborn doesn't like this, but when James pulls his rank and begins to search, he and Eldridge reluctantly follow. The three split up at James's command, and Eldridge is captured by the enemy. James and Sanborn are able to rescue him, but not without one of James's rounds hitting him in the leg. They manage to patch him up enough to get back to camp, but he will need to be sent off to have surgery. After this incident, the viewer sees James really losing control of his emotions. Between the loss of Beckham and getting Eldridge injured, it is clear that he is really not doing okay. He takes a shower while still wearing all of his uniform and much of his gear. As the blood and dirt is cleaned off of him, he sits and breaks down. The morning after this event, the real Beckham approaches James to play soccer. James, though, ignores him and walks past him. He and Sanborn rush to the helicopter that is taking Eldridge to the surgeon that will try to heal him. Before he is taken away, Eldridge angrily blames James for what happened, saying that his actions were just to get an adrenaline high and were not necessary. With just 2 days left in their rotation, James and Sanborn are called out to another mission. Here, a civilian had a bomb vest forcibly strapped to him. Although everyone else sees it as suicide, James puts the bomb suit on and approaches the man. He finds a timer with just 2.5 minutes left on it and tries to cut the locks off the vest to free the man, but there are too many and they are made out of a material too strong for the bolt cutters. James is forced to abandon the man in order to save his own life. This event is particularly rough on Sanborn, who is troubled by the man's death. He confides in James and tells him that the pressure of their job is just too much for him to keep doing. He wants to get home, get out of the military, and have a son. He asks how James is able to constantly roll the dice on his life, especially when he does have a family at home. This question stumps James, and he isn't able to answer it. Back in the United States, James goes back to his ex-wife, Connie, and their young son. Civilian life, though, both bores and overwhelms him. He is itching to go back to combat where he feels his skills are still needed. He tells his infant son that there's only one thing in the world that he really loves. James starts another year-long rotation as an Army EOD, serving with Delta Company. The last shot that the viewer gets in the movie is of James in his suit, walking towards a potential threat. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.